Hi Fight fans, this is my breakdown for George the St. Groves World Title Challenge against the champion, the WBC Super Middleweight Champion of the World, Badou Jack. Now this one's a real pick'em fight for me. If you listen to George Groves, he'll tell you that Badou Jack is basic and really not a bad man, and Groves thinks he's the bad man that's going to beat Badou Jack. On the flip side, Badou Jack the champion is a lot more reserved. Not much trash talking from Badou Jack. He won the world title against Anthony Durrell after himself being spectacularly knocked out in a round by Derek Edwards. In terms of spectacular, Groves himself has been spectacularly knocked out by Carl Froch in the second fight. In the first fight, it looked like he was going to get stopped. And anybody who's followed my channel for a while and watched my prediction, I predicted that Carl Froch would be behind on points, but would rally and stop George Groves late. I said that for the first fight. I said it for the second fight. I actually thought, in my opinion, that the fight between George Groves and Carl Froch, the original fight, came about 3 fights too early. But I thought, under Adam Booth devised a plan where he thought he could hit and not get hit, or with Groves, hit and not get hit. But the problem with that style is that Froch is always putting pressure on you. He's always putting pressure on you. And when you're putting pressure and you're having to move all the time against a world-class fighter, it's different than hop, skipping and jumping against a guy who is like someone like Glenn Johnson, who I think George Groves' best performance in his career has been against Glenn Johnson. And that was a Glenn Johnson that had retired and came back. Now, this is no disrespect to George Groves. I think George Groves is a very exciting fighter. I think I think he had put his punches together quite nicely. I think under Adam Booth, his style was, to hit and not get hit. He had that slippery style like David Haye, the sniper. But since he's pulled away from Booth, I'm yet to be convinced that this new style where he's holding his feet more, standing in front of opponents and trying to blast them out there actually is effective for George Groves' style. Especially where there's some question marks about his own chin, his stamina, and his actual ability to absorb punishment. That being said, I think George, again, is an exciting fighter. His knockout record, George Groves comes in this fight as 21 with 2 defeats, both by stoppage, 16 KOs. When you look at his knockout rate, I think it's a 70% knockout percentage, but you have to really take away from that knockout percentage, not the guys he's meant to knock out, the journeymen, and guys that don't come with much desire. We're talking at the top end. At the top end, his knockout record is not great. He went twice with Carl Froch, who nobody knocks Carl Froch out, but he was able to drop Froch. Froch was able to get up, shake off the effects of that punch, come back, and after that, Groves wasn't unable to put Froch on the canvas again. In the second fight, again, Groves was unable to put Froch on the canvas. The next fight, you say Glenn Johnson couldn't move Glenn Johnson, but nobody knocks Glenn Johnson out. Then you've got to look at Paul Smith. Well, Paul Smith's been stopped by James DeGale before that, and I think Paul Smith is where he is. No disrespect to Paul Smith, British, possibly European Championship material. You've got to say to yourself, he's failed twice at world level. And then, his recent fight against Rebresse that everyone's talking about. Oh, it was a great win against Rebresse. Rebresse is ranked number 2 in France and I think 40 odd in Europe. Or in the world, sorry. And Groves laboured in that fight, went 12 rounds and was blowing hard. And his rival, Callum Smith, whom I'm not convinced about yet either, because Callum Smith, his record, he's beaten the guys and put in front of him, but, the caliber of opposition certainly does not deserve him to be ranked number 2 in the world by WBC. But that's another discussion altogether. But Callum Smith was able to drop Rebresse. George Groves at no point in that fight was able to drop Rebresse whatsoever. So they say stars make fights. Callum Smith is more of a body puncher. Groves seems to be more of a head puncher. Now, does Groves punch hard enough to knock Badou Jack out? Badou Jack got stopped by Derek Edwards, as we know. That was the one defeat he had. Again, and he got spectacularly knocked out as well. But if I look at Groves' best win, it was against Glenn Johnson. Be honest, his best performance against Glenn Johnson. When he fought against Paul Smith, he got cracked and badly hurt in the first round. At the end of the first round, go and look at that. He stopped Paul Smith in the second round, but he was always going to beat Smith, in my opinion. I always felt that, DeGale had already beaten him. There's another point I'd like to make to this as well before I move on. James DeGale has beaten Groves every time to win in a title. He got the British title before Groves did. He won the European title before Groves did. And he became world champion before Groves did. So just take that on. It's also ironic that, in terms of George Groves, Carl Froch wanted to end his career in Vegas. George Groves is now fighting in Vegas. And according to Carl Froch, Groves has been cobra'd, meaning that since that fight, he's not been the same fighter. And you couldn't argue with Carl Froch because the last two fights, Groves hasn't looked great. But this could be like the Amir Khan, Virgil Hunter situation. Now, I'm not calling Paddy Fitzpatrick Virgil Hunter, but Khan was away for a while. He came back, and he looked better under that period of time where he was with Virgil Hunter and he didn't fight for a while. He's able to work and fine-tune some things. Now, the two fights, or the three fights we've seen him with Paddy Fitzpatrick, I've seen nothing there to see that Groves has improved. The question is Groves going to come back in this fight in Las Vegas? And let's remember, the last time George Groves fought was on the Tony Bellew, Nathan Cleverly bill. Remember that? Exactly. That was a long time ago. So now he's fighting. He's now fighting in Las Vegas. So you've got the Las Vegas heat. I know for sure that Groves is a big super middleweight. So he's probably walking around close to light heavyweight or cruiserweight, walk around weight. So having to pull himself down. Surprisingly, I've looked at Groves recently. He looks slimmed down already. You could see he looks ready. Has he overtrained for this fight for Badou Jack? And he's acclimatized to Las Vegas. That's well and good, acclimatizing to Las Vegas. But if Badou Jack puts a sort of pressure on Groves, which makes him have to exert a lot of punches, if you look at George Groves and the pattern of his career and how he fights, from round 6 onwards, from 6 rounds onwards, you've got to start looking at Groves' stamina. The amount of punches Groves puts out after that does decline. And as you see in both Froch fights, his defenses, the left hand starts coming down by his waist. And when you start getting tired, you don't concentrate in defense as much. I believe if Badou Jack is going to win this fight, I believe it will be in the second half of the fight. I believe he can stop Groves in the second half of the fight. I believe for George Groves, if he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to come out first round and hit Jack as hard as he can and hope Jack falls over. That's how I see the fight. I see Badou Jack winning his fight in the second half of the fight, George Groves tiring, and the same problems he had with Froch, lacking stamina at world level and inability to absorb punishment at world level. I suspect, and from what I've seen so far, Groves looks great at giving it out. I do question whether he's able to take it. Now, if he's going to win the fight the long way, he's got to limit the amount of times he gets hit, because Badou Jack's record, 19 fights, 1 win, 19 fights, 1 loss, 1 draw, and 12 KOs. Jack can punch, and the guy he won the title off was Anthony Durrell, who was unbeaten at the time. And Durrell won the title of Saki Obika. And I don't have to tell you how good Saki Obika is. He only just recently went 12 rounds with the WBC light heavyweight champion of the world. Saki Obika has never been knocked out, never been stopped. And we know that Stevenson's one of the biggest punchers in world boxing. He's been the distance with Hall of Famer Joe Calzaghe. He's been in the ring with Andre Ward. And he's a pound for pound and potential Hall of Fame great later on in his career, I believe. He has been the distance, Saki Obika, and, he won the world title. So Bika is no bum. Bika is world class. And Durrell beat Bika. And Bika puts pressure on and can punch. and Durrell was able to soak it up and beat Beaker. There's a majority draw, I believe, the first fight. Durrell beat him in the second fight. Now, for Badou Jack, who got knocked up by Derek Edwards, to come back and to actually beat Durrell, he beat Durrell on points. That's a world-class performance you've beaten there. So Jack's best performance against Anthony Durrell. George Groves' best performance against Glenn Johnson. If you look at their ratings and the rankings and where they were, Glenn Johnson come out of retirement. You can't, and nobody else. You look at George Groves' record, there's nobody really else. If you want to then go back, then we can go down and say Paul Smith. You can't say Rebrasse, because Rebrasse wasn't very good anyway. And the guy was Douglin, had been knocked out before Groves had fought him. So this is not a disrespect of George Groves, but ask yourself this question. Could Badou Jack have beaten Rebrasse? I think so. Could he have beaten Douglin? I think so. The only person I'm not sure Jack could beat was Carl Froch. But having said that, Groves tried twice and failed. So, that being said, I don't see this fight being this is an easy fight for me, George Groves. I don't see it as that. If George Groves' chin was more reliable, I would say, yeah, okay, fine. But I don't have that much much faith in the chin of George Groves or the stamina. So if Groves is to win this fight, he's going to jump on Jack, literally jump on him. But I think if he doesn't get Jack out of there, I think Jack's going to tuck up tight early, like he did against Durrell, tuck up tight and walk Groves back against the ropes and keep us back against the ropes and keep him there against the ropes. Yes, I actually believe what George Groves said, that this fight could be, it could outshine Berto Mayweather. It could. The only way it could not outshine Berto Mayweather is if Berto calls the upset. We'll talk about that later. But as for now, it's a tough one. I have to go with the form guy at the moment. George Groves is not the form guy coming into this fight. He's not the former guy. And if you go back and look at George Groves' record before he fought the two high-profile fights with Carl Froch, like I said, I didn't think he was ready for. And I think he should have had a couple more fights before he fought George Groves. But I think Booth was taking that chance at the time, based on a strategic game plan. I still think Jack's got the better resume. I think that's my opinion. And fought the better opposition in Durrell. So they've both been knocked out. So no one can say they haven't been knocked out. In fact, George Groves has been stopped twice. And okay, you could say that the DeGale fight was his best win, but really, I don't think he beat James DeGale. In my opinion, it was too close. I thought DeGale won the fight. I thought that Groves faded down the stretch, but then hey, people will dispute that. And I think DeGale has come on as a fighter since that fight anyway. So I think my thoughts are Groves early, inside 6, Badou Jack late, after 6. Those are my thoughts on the fight between Jack and Groves. George Groves, as I said, can win this fight spectacularly by knockout, but I also think Badou Jack can win this fight spectacularly by knockout. Let me know what you think. I'm out of here.